On October 23rd, 2015, I produced a video called There Is No Evil Goku, and I made this video to tell the fandom all these clickbait channels that were claiming that there was an evil Goku and that there would be an evil Goku storyline in Dragon Ball Super were full of crap. And at the time, I was right. And then we have the first key visual for the Trunks arc where we see Trunks and Mai and we see an evil Goku who would later be referred to as Goku Black. Even though I was right when that first video went up on October 23rd, I wound up being wrong because they did incorporate an evil Goku into Dragon Ball Super. I've been wrong about a few things. I said that Broly would never come back, and he did. It just goes to show that Toriyama is very often hard to predict. Same thing with the Japanese office over at Toei and Shueisha. Now, that being said, I didn't understand how wrong I actually was because when you take a deeper look into Dragon Ball, Goku Black has been done before. In fact, the concept of a doppelganger or an evil twin is something that's existed in fiction for a very, very long time. And on this edition of Dragon Ball In Depth, I want to look at the past. I want to look at the history of doppelgangers for Goku in Dragon Ball to kind of tell everybody that even though Goku Black was the definitive evil Goku, the concept was there way before he even came around. Let's talk about it next. The idea of a doppelganger is something that's been used in fiction for several hundreds of years and is really nothing new when it comes to both storytelling and real-life superstition. Supposedly, if you run into your real-life doppelganger 3 times, many people believe in the superstition your life may come to an end very soon. However, when it comes to doppelgangers and evil clones and whatnot, it really all started, at least when it came to the word doppelganger, in 1796 by German author John Paul and his novel Case, which tells the story of the main character changing bodies with a look-alike. Now, obviously, there's different ways to tell the story of a doppelganger. Each one is sort of creative in their own way. For example, Hans Christian Andersen's 1847 fairy tale, The Shadow, talks about a man's shadow separating from his body and becoming sort of his walking double and eventually replacing him entirely, which kind of sounds like what Goku Black wanted to do in Dragon Ball Super. Then you've also got Edgar Allan Poe's William Wilson, and I love William Wilson because that story is sort of like the opposite of what they did with Goku Black. In that story, the doppelganger is actually the hero, and the main character is the lustful, greedy, evil person. And that's the big twist that Edgar Allan Poe put in that story. And I love that he did that. So as you can see, the use of a doppelganger in fiction is hundreds of years old. Now, when it comes to stuff that I grew up with, obviously in the 80s and 90s, I was a fan of comic books. So some of the most prevalent doppelgangers or evil twins or whatever range from Bizarro Superman to Negaduck from Darkwing Duck, the evil version of Darkwing Duck. In Spider-Man comics, you actually have a character called Doppelganger. They actually give him that name, but there have been all kinds of spider clones. In fact, there was a whole clone saga. And then you've even got some of the more nostalgic but niche versions, like don't forget the evil Captain Planet, Captain Pollution, the dirty Captain Planet. That's another example of me seeing this story as a little kid. And of course, don't forget how many times they had evil Power Rangers. The best evil Power Rangers ever were the Psycho Rangers from Power Rangers in Space / Mega Ranger, the Neji Ranger. They were incredibly awesome, and to me, some of the best storytelling when it came to having an evil team. And if you're a gamer, don't forget about how Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, you fight an evil version of yourself, which comes back in Ocarina of Time, which I also loved. It's just something that's gone on for many, many, many decades. You could even consider Wario and Waluigi to be evil versions of Mario and Luigi. It's just something that every single major character, main superhero or superhero team at some point has to battle an evil version of themselves. And having to duel with yourself or your past is something that is very profound and very interesting, because at the end of the day, like what Rocky told Creed in the first Creed film, the biggest enemy is right there in the mirror. And I've always found that to be very interesting. One of my favorite games as a kid was Final Fantasy IV. There's a scene where in order to become a paladin, you have to fight the evil Dark Knight version of yourself. And I don't mean the Batman Dark Knight, I mean in that game. What about Dragon Ball? Is Goku Black really the first version of Evil Goku? When you think about it, it's really not. There have been other versions and other ways of telling the story of Goku battling his doppelganger, and we're going to be exploring that in the next section of this video. However, I will say that none of these other Evil Gokus had anywhere close to the impact that Goku Black had. Goku Black, I think, was Evil Goku done as good as it could be done when it comes to the actual character and the motivations behind Zamasu, who would become Goku Black, but it wasn't the first time. So, let's talk about it now. Now, if you really, really want to go back to the first time this idea was ever explored, you got to go back to the original Dragon Ball anime, specifically Dragon Ball Anime Episode 130. Now, this was a part of the training that Goku underwent with Kami and Mr. Popo in preparation for his battle with Piccolo Jr. at the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai. Goku was still a kid at the time, but he's being trained by them for that purpose. And even though this scene or these episodes are not in the original manga, they are profoundly interesting to me, especially this one. So in episode 130, Mr. Popo takes a hair from the head of Goku and uses his magical powers to kind of create a clone by putting the hair on this sort of contraption that creates this doll version of Goku. And pretty much Goku is told to fight until one of them runs out of power, and Goku quickly finds out that this doll has the same speed and power that he possesses. So the doll is physically equal to him, but what Goku has over the doll is his mind, and Goku has to understand and realize the power of his mind in order to defeat the doll. But that would not be the last time we saw an Evil Goku. If you want to be technical about all this, when Captain Ginyu swapped bodies with Goku, that in itself is sort of a version of an Evil Goku. Even though Captain Ginyu was the one in possession of Goku's body, that's not really that different from what Goku Black was, except that Goku Black was much stronger and that Zamasu was able to take Goku's body with the Super Dragon Balls as opposed to using Captain Ginyu's body change technique. But really, it's the same concept, with the only major differences being what I just mentioned, plus the fact that Goku's friends had to help out, whereas in the Goku Black arc, Goku fought Goku Black with just Vegeta and Trunks and really nobody else. The most prevalent and obvious version of Evil Goku came with the appearance of the movie-only villain Turles, or Tullus, from Dragon Ball Z Movie 3, known in the West as Tree of Might, but in Japan it's known as Chiku Marugoto Chokesen, which translates to Earth's Ultimate Deciding Battle, or Super Deciding Battle for Earth, depending on which way you want to translate it. And this was the first true concept of having an evil Goku that Goku himself could face off against, and of course have to eventually overcome. Now, obviously, this character of Tullus, or Turles, is not one that is viewed by many fans as an evil Goku, because when most fans think about him, he is normally categorized as being just an evil Saiyan who happens to look like Goku. But there's a lot more to this character beneath the surface, and that is the fact that he is a character that was created purely on the what-if scenario involving Goku never hitting his head as a baby. If you remember, in the original story, Goku was sent to Earth to take it over as an infant child, and when he hit his head, he became a loving boy. That's what Master Roshi told us in the early Dragon Ball Z episodes. Tullus is, as a whole, in conception, a character that represents that scenario. What if Goku never hit his head as a baby? Is a question that's been asked I don't know how many times. Well, the answer is Toei and the anime staff already thought about that. and that became the basis of the plot of the villain of the third Dragon Ball Z movie. In fact, within that actual movie, there's a scene at the end where Bulma and Master Roshi are thankful that Goku never hit his head because now they know what the result would have been. But that's not all. There's an interview with Minoru Maeda in the Dragon Box the Movies Dragon Book that discusses this in detail. Maeda says the following: since Tullus was supposed to be Goku's lookalike, it's basically Goku drawn as is. However, I gave him a cruel expression and a scouter, and his build could have been made a little bit bulkier as well. His skin color is different, and more than anything else, his costume is completely different. So there was no need to go and deliberately make him seem like an imposter, quote end quote. He puts a quote there for imposter. Pretty much tells you point blank that the idea was not that he was supposed to be pretending to be Goku or trying to be Goku. That's not what his motivations were. But he was a character that was purely created to signify what would happen if Goku was evil. He is the first evil Goku. The storyline is quite simple when it comes to him, and Goku Black's is much more interesting. Goku Black, to me, was the doppelganger storyline done right for the most part. I mean, I have problems with that arc. The best possible way to do an evil Goku, I feel, was done with Goku Black, and I never thought it would happen, but it did. Goku Black was really the main villain of that arc along with Zamasu, and he really provided challenges for the characters that previous incarnations of Evil Goku never could do. And don't forget that Goku Black also referred to himself as Son Goku. The name Goku Black was given to him by future Bulma, so he tried to convince people that he was Son Goku because of Zamasu's anger and willingness to twist and pervert and pollute Goku's name into being something truly evil. One cool little tidbit about Goku Black that I always found interesting is that when you write his name out in the official materials in Japanese, Goku Black is written in katakana, whereas Son Goku is written in kanji. So they obviously did this purposely so that readers in Japan would be able to discern the difference between Goku Black and Goku, even though it's pretty obvious if you look at them either way. That's the story. So to conclude, Goku Black was not the first evil Goku, but he certainly was the best. And yes, I was wrong when I said 3.5 years ago that there is no evil Goku, even though technically Goku himself didn't turn evil and probably never will. These characters I mentioned here are different ways to do evil Goku. Maybe we'll have an evil Gohan someday, but probably not. Thank you so much for watching this in depth. I hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.